Right, welcome ladies and gents. Alien Earth, will we be getting a season 2? Well, the director, the showrunner, is confirming that season 2 talks are happening. And has said basically, quote, "This is such a huge story to explore." So he wants to keep going. I don't know whether the numbers, I don't know whether the ratings will, I guess, sort of justify continuing. It'll be really interesting to start looking at those numbers. We actually haven't had any major update on numbers, to be fair. So, yeah, it'll be one of those things that I will be interested in. But I thought we'd take a look at this just because, it's intriguing. It's intriguing to see whether they renew this or not. FX have done some brilliant things the last couple of years. One of them was Shogun. And they took a while to renew that. I feel like FX... They don't just greenlight stuff left, right, and centre. They do actually process whether something is worth continuing or not. So I don't know whether they will with Alien Earth. Talks are happening though, is basically the take home. So let's take a look. Hit subscribe if you're new here, or indeed a returning viewer that isn't yet subscribed. You might like it. You might like hanging around a bit more. But anyway, so there are some spoilers in this, but you've probably watched it, so it doesn't really matter. It's just a conversation with Entertainment Weekly, right? So Noah Hawley, the showrunner and creator of Alien Earth, confirms to Entertainment Weekly that Season 2 talks are underway, though he doesn't have a specific timeline for an official determination. He does call the show a huge story to explore, and adds that he does, quote, "have a sense of where the journey goes in the long run." Well, good. I'm glad you've got an idea of where it goes. Jesus Christ. It is mental to me that some of these people, that you're like, well, I've got an idea. It's like, yeah, what? You think that would be a given? But okay. So Hawley speaks with Entertainment Weekly about the current status of Alien Earth Season 2, as well as the cliffhanger moment Season 1 left for the audience. So Entertainment Weekly asked, by the time we get to this finale episode, it's very clear that the show is leaving the door wide open for more seasons. Was the idea of multiple seasons really ingrained in your initial vision for the show? In some ways, that was the assignment when I talked with FX about it. We always discussed it as a recurring series. I have a sense of where the journey goes in the long run, but I don't necessarily know how long it'll take me to get there. I think that this is such a huge story to explore, but then again, we also have to fit into the timeline of the film, so there's some creative constraints that can often be helpful in terms of it's not completely open-ended. What is the current... so that, for instance, in some ways, that was the assignment when I talked to FX about it. So it's like, well, this is the problem with modern day storytelling, is that they don't just create one show that's kind of like done and could continue. This is obviously a story that has to continue, otherwise it's finished, right? Like you've half done a story, and that's stupid. That's the same thing as David now, right? David and Prometheus and Covenant. You've got this loose end that has to be tied up. I don't necessarily want them to tie it up because the narrative is so good, but stories left unfinished is really, really dumb. It's really, really dumb. Like, it's offensive to me anyway. Like, I hate unfinished stories. So yeah, but I feel like that's the problem, isn't it? Is that they go into it always wanting more, and then they can just cancel it. So they set it up in a way designed purely to continue it. Another one which was really egregious with this was Raised by Wolves, right? That was a show that, I mean, by 2 seasons, still didn't know what was going on. It was mental. Like, it was absolutely batshit. It's mental. If you've not watched it, go watch it. It's insane. But I was intrigued to see where it went. No idea now, because they cancelled it. So it's a shame. It's disappointing. So what is the current status of a second season? We're certainly having conversations about it. And I've been thinking on the creative front. It's very encouraging, the success of the show globally. And FX is very deliberate in their process. I think that's why they've been so successful. Is they don't spend more than the show can realise in its return value. Part of it is not just, are we going to make more, but are we going to make more at what price and what's the timeline for it? So all those factors are being discussed, but I don't have a timeline for you. Now that clarifies what I said about FX. They do, they slowly renew things if they're going to renew it. And they don't renew things that aren't of value. Now, it is interesting. It says the success of the show globally. So apparently, they think it was successful. Likely successful enough to at least do a season 2, right? That's probably going to be the likelihood. Now, I do know that some of the conversations are based around like locations where they're planning to film. But that's kind of it, really. Season 2 is kind of up in the air for now anyway. But it's looking like they're going to renew it. In the timeline, we're very close to the launch of the Nostromo. Is that event in the back of your mind? I said early on, you can make me care about timelines and mythology, but it's not my natural instinct to care about them passionately. What I tend to do is figure out the story I want to tell, and then check and see how this would fit into the larger story. I'm still living very much within the world that I've created, and with a green light for a season 2, I think I would dive in a little more, probably to look at what's the big picture of the show, how does it fit into the big picture of the films, what are the things that we're stuck with in terms of landmarks and dates, and those sorts of things. So, yeah, there you go. How much of this show for you is about telling the story of Weyland-Yutani and why they launched the Nostromo? In the Ridley Scott movies, Weyland-Yutani is the only corporation we hear about, and now we're seeing on the show what we imagine were the events that led to Prodigy's demise. I think it's an interesting question. When I originally thought about what is the show, Alien Earth, my next question was, what is Earth? On some level, the Alien franchise, I think we have a clear sense that Weyland-Yutani is a dominant force. But how did it become that dominant force? I think is a really interesting question. And that corporate power struggle, especially at a moment on our own planet, where it seems like so much of what our human story is about shareholder value, that seemed like a really ripe area to explore. I actually quite like that answer. I loved all of the lore that you're adding in the show. I specifically want to talk about Wendy's relationship to the Xenomorph. It gave me very Daenerys and her dragons, or like, if you're a Studio Ghibli fan, Princess Mononoke and the Wolf Gods. Did you have specific iconography or influences you were pulling from? In terms of reference points, obviously Alien itself, and what seems clearly to be some form of communication that the Queen has with the drones. So there's something there to explore. Game of Thrones, obviously, the Mother of Dragons, is a clear cultural touchstone in this moment, but also movies like Arrival, which was so much about first contact as an issue of language. There's that great anecdote in Arrival where she wants to use a blackboard and written language, and she tells the kangaroo story. So there is this real danger of miscommunication. And then, on some level, it goes back to Jaws. Blah, 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 blah. And there's an image of the Xenomorph and just how bad it looked. I mean, this looks like it's straight out of a 3D printer, man. That's fucking bad, isn't it? That's fucking bad. It looks plastic. It looks 3D printed. Anyway, I don't have much else really to add to this article and the sort of interview that they had. It's not that important. It's more about season 2 and things like that. So are we getting a season 2? The likelihood is very, very high. Noah, mate, do some bloody research. Okay? Actually listen to some of the fan feedback. Maybe you can course correct it. And it won't just become another maligned prequel in the Alien series. Cheers, guys. Take care. Bye-bye now.